Okay,
I'll talk to you later.
we're calling the meeting to order. I want to make you aware that the meeting is recorded and anything you say is going to become a part of the public record. Thank you. I want to open the meeting by thanking all of you for coming. And this is the opportunity for the council to hear resident comments. Does anybody have any comments? Well, seeing nobody, we will move on to village business. So the minutes of the April 19 council meeting were approved by email. And so I just need a motion to approve them formally.
I move to approve the April meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Susan
It's a motion.
Katya.
Yeah, you have to make a motion.
I move to approve.
She moved to approve.
I like the rhythm.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will delay on the treasurer's report until the treasurer manages to get here. And so we can move on to the state of the village. Let me see, how was it? Susan, can you talk about the charter and the legal things?
Okay.
The meeting is in order, Arthur.
Okay, I was collecting policing information.
Okay,
So over
Okay.
the,
Hello, how are you?
thank you. I'm sorry, just 1 minute. Did you want to give a report, Nick, or is there, I'm sorry, it catches you.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. I have nothing of specific note to really say. I mean, which is a good thing. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them. But other than a small spat of car break-ins like a month and a half ago, really nothing popped up on the radar, which is good.
Right.
I would remind everybody in attendance that this is a time of.
You might want to speak to all of the
Oh, God,
audience.
I apologize. It is the time of year now, especially getting warmer. Soon it'll be way too hot, but now is the time of year where it's getting warmer, where people are more inclined to start committing vehicle break-ins. So the importance I've stressed over the past 4 years of locking car doors and not leaving bikes on porches and closing garage doors. I've joked on the broken record on that. It's important it's important now, it's important all the time, but this is when we start to traditionally see those sort of things, and it doesn't take a lot for 3 people to walk down a street trying car doors, and before you know it, 40 or 50 houses and cars have been broken into. It takes an hour. So if I say anything, I'd remind people, lock your car doors, close your garages, and don't leave bikes and stuff on your porch. But
It might be a good time for us to send that out as a reminder, actually. just
Again.
as- Yeah.
Right. Also, we've had, again, this discussion about wanting more police
That's what we-
checking on speeding.
We were just talking about that.
Okay.
Maybe you could summarize
Okay.
what you just told me.
all right, so I'll kind of break down what I said. My answer is always going to be, I think your answer is going to be, is it worth it to have either additional police or me and Sergeant Pratt do traffic enforcement on the side streets? And I would give kind of the 3-tiered answer I gave Mr. Alexander before, was that yes, the answer is always yes, we can do that. My suggestion would be not Sergeant Pratt and I, because our roles is more like community engagement, consulting. I am not 1,000% sure the mission of ours should be kind of like the negative perception of doing high volume traffic enforcement in the community. So if you were to go down that path, I think I can always arrange to hire additional police that would be tasked solely with the purpose of doing speed enforcement on side streets. That being said, I have learned in my career that perception of speed is often a greater issue than the speed itself. What I think happens, a lot of these side streets, 25-mile-an-hour zones. I could not in good faith personally or ask any other police officer to write a speed ticket for anything less than 10 over. To go 35 miles an hour down a side street here is ridiculously fast. My suggestion to the village would be, knowledge is power. Nowadays, they make speed monitoring devices that record speed, and they record speed. They can, they're solar powered. They can report data to the office. They're not something you'd want to buy yourself, but they're not crazy expensive in the world of municipalities, like $5,000 for one of these signs. And they're small. They will report the speed back, but I've always said you don't even want to have report back. You just want to record data. So if somebody calls here and says, hey, somebody's been speeding down Taylor Street, I'd like to have a police officer here, you can put the sign out for 2 weeks and you can report back saying, look, we did a survey. The average speed is 23 miles an hour. No car went over 29. There's not any data to support putting a police officer there. The conversation, maybe you do find some data that supports it, but generally speaking, you generally don't.
Okay, I want to take a bow here. I think I deserve it, okay?
Okay, take a bow.
I called a shot 1 o'clock between 5 and 5:30, and then we were good. Nobody here. That's not unusual.
So I guess if I had to give advice and a suggestion, my suggestion would be explore more the speed monitoring device angle of it. Which I think would give the towns and the village some data that could counteract people's complaints. I really do think, I have done some with laser, just for the purpose of doing some speed testing on some of the side streets, and I spent like an hour out there, and the fastest car is going like 27. So I don't know if that's really a great use of village resources, hiring a police officer at whatever dollars an hour you're going to spend for that to stand and legitimately write like one ticket.
The other point he made before, to me, is that even having a sign up there as a deterrent device won't deter much if there's not much happening. So if you have the one that you sent a picture out, speed limit 25, you were going 27, this is going to be ignored by most people. And it's unlikely that you're going to be going 35.
And I think also when you do that, and so a lot of the signs have like the dual capability. You can turn the lights off on it. If you have a flashing light, people who are going the speed limit are going to slow down, and it's going to skew your data set. So from a like a research point of view, from an empirical point of view, you're going to want like the true speeds of people going through. So, but they all have like the duality.
Okay.
So you can, you can say, hey, look, this is one of those ones where we don't really care about the data. We just want people to slow down. Just hope the community sees it as a visible thing. Then you turn it on. If you just really want to get 2 weeks of speed data, you turn it on.
Yeah, so I would say there's two
Good.
pieces of this,
Right.
right? There's the speed, but then there's also the stop sign. And that's definitely something the residents have been very concerned about. People not stopping at the top of Summit, Thornapple, people not stopping part of the way down, Thornapple.
Right.
People do not stop on Raymond and Brookville,
That's
ever,
true.
ever.
They
I mean, they
close
just
through.
roll right through.
But I think
Every
this
car.
is a good thing, just from what he said, finding a little bit more about the signs, how we could use them. I also think just education for the neighbors that are concerned, like, people are flying down the street. Well, if we have the data that shows people are going 27 and a 25, or people are going 23 and a 25, then it helps us to say they're not actually flying down the street, or they are.
Right, yeah.
And
But
then,
the traffic studies we've done showed exactly that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
What-
the question would be then, what about the stop signs? Is that something we would get extra, we'd order someone, employ someone for extra time just to do that for a couple of days?
So yes, you could hire an additional officer, and that would be the sole scope of their job. Would be X number of hours per week of traffic
Right.
enforcement at an intersection.
Well, when the families, particularly on Thornapple, where there is the most complaints because there aren't sidewalks, that if there was somebody there that for 2 days in a row that stopped people from rolling. But the neighbors said they want people to get tickets if they are going through the stop sign, even if they live there. They want everybody to get tickets because they feel like that's the only way it'll get taken seriously. So maybe you could get some sort of a proposal. It is during
Rush hour.
7 to,
I think it's 8 to 9 is when the most traffic
in the morning.
happens.
Yeah, and then again at 5 to 6, between
But
5
it's
and.
not going backwards.
The afternoon,
that
there
we-
seems to be a problem because people are using it as a cut through to get.
Mm.
So I would just say from a policing point of view, it would be hard to get somebody to do 1 hour.
Right,
So
well,
you want to have like a either 2 hours or or the pay would be greater for the hour because you want to make it worth someone's while to fight
Sure.
traffic to get down here.
Right,
8 o'clock in the
right.
morning.
well, you
Um,
tell us what the minimum, I mean, and I think that we'd be better off with 7 to 10, for instance. You know,
Right,
for 3 days in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so see if you can find somebody who might
That-
be willing.
That won't be a problem. The only thing I would just give the caveat of I can hire somebody and say, look, the intent of the program or the hire would be to have officers write citations. I cannot compel or order an officer to write a citation because police discretion will always kind of carry the
Right, no, I understand.
The person that would hire for you would understand that mission,
Right.
but I can't in good faith tell you I'll hire somebody and all he'll do is write tickets because everybody has, we don't have, we're dealing with humans, so
Right.
I don't want to pretend that I can enforce that, but I can certainly tell the person we hire the intent would be recitations unless.
Right.
So, and Nick, just to confirm, that you're saying for you and Mike to do this could be, it's not a conflict of interest, but just it may hinder your community policing responsibilities versus just straight up enforcement.
Correct, especially especially in the light that most people who what I'm hearing is that people are general residents who are committing violations. I certainly think it would be poor form in a community of 800 people to have written 100 people in the community a ticket in a.
Well, for the stop sign that I'm concerned about on Raymond Street, because I see it every day, those people are commuters through, and they're not residents.
Right.
But that's on Brookville.
Yeah.
Phil,
I don't think, do we, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
can
well,
we-
we don't have authority on Brookville, but
I mean,
county
I'm a police
should.
officer. I can pull somebody over. I mean, I can make a traffic stop anywhere in the county.
Right,
That's
right,
not-
right, you can, yeah, yeah.
So do you know what, we're talking
Yeah.
about the stop sign at Raymond and Brookville?
Mhm.
The jog, and that one, you're right, that one's terrible. The one down here is terrible too.
And on that, I have been considering talking up the possibility of a crossing guard out here at, at the Thornapple crossing on Brookville. What's your experience, or what's the general experience with crossing guards?
My understanding is they only generally work in school zones.
In school
So
zone?
only if there's a school,
Yeah,
like if they're helping a mass group of people go to a school. I don't think there's a school close enough by where you
no,
can
it's
get a
like where the
crossing guard.
school bus stops and 6 people get out at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't think a crossing guard is really a viable option.
And I think the liability for us would be astronomical.
I don't know how. what
Isn't,
way.
and isn't
How?
there, because actually Mike Sergeant Pratt was here earlier.
Yeah.
He had asked, there's still the redesign of the intersection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Isn't part
Sure.
of that.
that's in
part of that-
process.
I was probably sure that would happen in 2014.
Right.
But part of that is a pedestrian safety concern as well,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I would be happy if you just told us whatever, or talk to Matt about what would be a reasonable amount of time and pay for someone to do stop sign duty.
Okay. As far as the scope of what you want, do you want is it a long-term thing, or are you looking at a 3-day,
I think we would need to see how
Yeah.
it works.
or you want it to
Do a
short-term
trial
with
run.
the
No,
possibility
yeah.
of?
yeah, do it, for more than 3 days, but
Yeah,
we'd want to see, get enough observation, enough information to see, is it worthwhile? Are they doing anything? Are they really catching anybody? Is it affecting behavior?
particularly because of the running of the stop signs on Thornapple where there are no sidewalks. At the top of Thornapple in Summit would be another place.
Okay.
And
And if they did Raymond, I mean, that's 3 different sites. Like,
yeah,
what are you talking
and
about?
Raymond, and the other one would be right here, what you've done from time to time, but
If you have 3 hours, you can rotate through those 3 hours. cover different.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, not,
Create a moment of
it
surprise,
isn't
right?
something we're gonna do for 6 weeks, but I would say that we have at least 3 weeks of places that we would like somebody to monitor.
So-
Or if you
I'm
guys
thinking-
have data on how long it takes for a deterrent effect to take place, that might also be helpful.
I don't off the top of my head, but I do know the guy who could tell me that question.
Right.
So let me do a little research.
Okay.
I'll give him a
Okay.
proposal. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking you're probably actually gonna want 2 people. Just because you're talking about different times of the day, officers work permanent schedules, so to get both sides covered,
Yes,
it probably, and plus the volume is pretty, it's not like pretty significant. So, I'll come with a proposal, I'll send it to Matt, in the next week or so. I already have 2 guys in mind, who would be good at that and have the right mindset.
Good,
I'll come with something, send it to Matt and let you guys know.
good,
oh, great,
okay.
I really appreciate that, Thanks.
That's what I'm here for.
okay,
That, a little expertise goes a long way.
yeah.
At least I can pretend like I have expertise and works out very well.
And we're also grateful that you are part of the audience for tonight's meeting,
You're welcome.
The big crowd.
for the big crowd.
Can I ask a question just on that? So would you guys think of doing this for like 3 months? And like you were saying, what would be the smart things to data to collect? I don't know if the officer would, what would be the things to collect for that time? Like, oh,
Well,
you
I
saw
think that we're going into this with sort of blindly and with help from Nick, and it'll spill out, it will naturally take care of itself, as I understand it.
Oh, so you have an end date on that? You'll try it for a certain amount of time?
Not yet. We'll wait until we get professional advice.
So
Thank
what
you.
I hear is he'll send a recommendation and we'll decide.
Right.
on that one.
We'll go from there.
It
Okay.
sounds like there will be a need
Keith,
for the
did
trial
you
period.
have more you'd like to say, other than giving us a chance to say thank you for setting everything up? Thank you for helping take everything down. I don't know what we would do without you and your gang.
And thank you for coordinating the weather so well.
Yeah.
See the weather whisperer, yeah.
Speechless, I love it, that's great.
And so, do you want to say anything more about the weather?
No, thanks.
Okay. We are deeply indebted to you, and we are grateful
For the record, say who.
for Keith Allen,
Thank you.
who's helped us. Okay, moving on to the April Treasurer's Report.
Well, the treasurer's report, I wanted to combine with the report on the budget.
Okay, we'll wait then.
Okay.
Then we're going to talk about the state of the village, and Susan is going to start with a report on ordinances, charter amendments, and the ethics committee.
Okay, so the council adopted a number of changes to the charter and the code of ordinances this year after due notice to residents. And some were essentially editorial, some were more significant. In 2015, VMA hired a consulting law firm to review the charter and code of ordinances for consistency in terms and conformity to state law. The council then reviewed those recommendations and adopted those we deemed necessary and appropriate. This year, we finalized those changes in the charter and the code of ordinances. Examples of the minor changes: elimination of the term bylaws in the charter, since the village no longer has bylaws, and editing to delete superseded references to the Maryland Code. Substantive changes included, for example, raising the dollar threshold for expenditures requiring a vote from $1,000 to $10,000, reflecting economic changes since 1985, when the charter was adopted. And over the past months, the Ethics Committee has updated and strengthened the conflict of interest forms. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions? Katya, on roads, streetlights, and your favorite, leaf vacuuming.
It is my favorite, thank you very much.
Streetlights and leaf vacuums.
Yes,
Yes,
and-
you've got it all.
and roads are also very important. So I'll start with roads and repaving. Around this time last year, we finally were able to begin repaving the roads in Martins Additions. while most of the streets have been repaved, we did have to hold on a few: Quincy, Raymond, Chestnut, Thornapple. And all those were because WSAC is still planning to do sewer line repairs and tear up the streets again. So unfortunately, while we were prodding WSAC to finish the work quicker, they have not begun their work there yet. In April, the council wrote a letter to WSAC's Board of Commissioners and our representatives in Annapolis to ask for their help in getting the work started. In response, just this week, WSSC reached out to meet with the village staff about the possibility of using a technique called pipe bursting, which will allow them to do their necessary work without the usual trenching. If this is a viable option, we will be able to repave the streets and not wait for the sewer work to be completed first. So, despite the delays, there are some positives. For instance, the ponding issue at the corner of Bradley and Brookville has been addressed. And in the coming months, we are working with the state highway again we're still working with them, and Section 3 to redesign the dangerous intersection over here on Taylor and Brookville. For streetlights, in fiscal year 2018, we've hit a huge milestone that we've all been waiting for years. We finally completed the street light replacement project that has been in the works since 2009, but the research on the project actually has been going on even longer. We have 74 new streetlights throughout the village, and the general consensus, actually even amongst people who did not expect to like them, is quite positive. One unintended positive consequence of the delays of this project is that it actually came significantly under budget. And not only was the cost of the installation significantly under budget, we're also expecting the monthly cost to go down. So we were just reimbursed $5,000 retroactively on the bills since the installation, and we expect to save about 50% month to month going forward.
And that 5,000 was a rebate because it was overcharged for
Yep.
the amount of power that we are currently using with these new lights versus the old lights.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Richard, for that clarification. And last but not least is my favorite, you're right, Richard, leaf vacuuming. So this was the first year of leaf vacuuming, which was fantastic, great response. We issued an RFP and selected Lee's Trees service that is also used in Section 5. And again, the service came in under budget, and we are looking to providing this service going forward. We hope that you can rake the leaves to the street in the coming year and reap the benefits of leaf vacuuming, which is
To the right of way.
To the right of
away,
way, not the
not
street.
in the street.
Yeah.
Thank you. People were actually really good about that.
They were.
We had
They
really
were.
clear instructions from the village staff on
Yeah.
where
With
not to put the
photos.
leaves, yes.
Repeatedly.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were foolproof.
It worked.
It was,
Mhm.
yeah, it's really helpful.
And of course, we always welcome feedback on any of this infrastructure services we provide, so thank you.
Nice report. Tiffany, community engagement and other volunteer.
Activities. So we have a volunteer committee that's focused on community engagement, and just a few of the members, Alyssa Bean, Lauren Beal, Chrissy Tampio, and Lynn Moelli has recently joined the group. And they've been really busy, but also growing things organically, and I think it's great. They've been focused on events and block captains. So just briefly, we have almost every street covered with a volunteer block captain. They've been doing a lot of the handing out of the materials before events, maybe making phone calls as things arise. The committee has also been responsible for the events that have kind of gone on the past year, the cookies and wine tasting. It helped with the celebration on the sidewalk, July 4th. Coming up soon, also they're looking at a fall event, hopefully, we'll put together, and then another wine tasting event for the adults. One event that happened this year that may or may not be every year is the Arbor Day event, and that was really a lot of work from the staff and Paula Goldberg, our village volunteer tree supervisor. So I think it's great that these folks are giving of their time and they're kind of taking leadership roles for the different events that we're putting on, and that brings out more residents. As we're seeing participation increase. And then the last thing Alyssa asked me to mention, their next meeting is going to be Monday, June the 4th. They're planning to set dates for the events for the next year at that meeting. It'll be in the evening, and you'll get an email. So Monday, June the 4th, set dates and times for events. They'll also want to talk about block captains. So if there's anybody who is not already signed up and interested, or current block captains who have ideas on how to improve, want them to come for that. And then anybody who's particularly interested in 4th of July, they plan to review the plans that are already in place for the 4th of July event and make sure that all that stuff is locked down. So again, the last thing, just Monday, June the 4th. And then one other thing that was a council effort, staff effort, community engagement, some of our professional services was, this year we got notice that there was a possibility that Brookville Road would be reclassified. So instead of, I don't remember what it is, a minor tributary now.
Yeah, it was going to be an arterial road versus a residential road.
Right. And it was a little confusing to those of us who read the requirements for what an arterial road would be, but I think it was, again, a community effort that people got out, took pictures, we were able to show the state that this doesn't meet your criteria and it wouldn't be good for the community, and guess what? It didn't happen. So I just think, again, it's one of those things where we're working really well with the council, the staff, and the residents to try and
other villages.
To try and accomplish things that are of import to the residents. And Matt has just signaled me on mail. That's another thing that we've worked hard with our local district office on. I know that the election committee felt like they got a good response from the post office for getting the materials out. I would say at our last meeting we had one resident who raised they're still having problems, so if there are residents who are seeing regular mail distribution issues, please let the office know so that we can put you directly in contact with the district manager, or we can continue to facilitate those conversations so that if it's a particular route or if someone's a sub or whatever, to try and get to figure out what the problem is and then work with the Postal Service to address it.
Good report. The Brookville Road project really did bring out all of the village residents who wrote letters, and I would especially like to recognize Wayne, who stood out in the middle of Brookville Road and took pictures, and we put together, I thought, a really effective letter with the pictures. That we sent in. And Matt, Tina, Wayne all really made that possible, in addition to the village really with an outpouring. Questions? Now I would like to move on to the budget and the fiscal report, or the April treasurer's report.
Well,
as one.
The other day I put together, or I completed a spreadsheet that I had started a couple of years ago of our expenditures going back over the years from when I first had records, going back to 2007. I updated it. And one of the things I was surprised at was how boring it is. Things don't change much. And just to give you an idea of that, back in 2007, we spent $580,000. In 2017, that's 11 years later, 11 fiscal years, we spent $571,000, a difference of $500,000, $1,000, or $10,000 about. Not much. It did go down during the recession to 400,000 and came back up again. And then looking at the categories, there's some bouncing around from year to year, depending on very specific events, but the categories are roughly stable over the years. About 15% we spend on the office, including the office lease. About 20% on salaries. That includes salaries, benefits, taxes on the salaries. Another 30% on professional fees. That's our legal counsel, our accountants, the police, and other professionals who we come in. They come and they go, the lighting specialist, the traffic specialist, and so on. And so the thing that really I noted on this is the boringness of it. It's just, these expenses are there year in and year out, and the mix doesn't change very much. The one thing that has shifted, as you might expect, is snow. Some years we have spent less than 1% of the budget on snow removal. The highest was 13%. What year?
2016.
No, actually, it was 2010.
Because we got reimbursed
Oh, okay.
probably
Oh, is
in
that-
2016.
No, we,
Right.
okay.
Well, we also had the big snow in 2010.
In 2010, yeah. We also did
We had two
shoveling.
snows.
And we
in
had
2010.
shoveling,
Oh, up
hand
the-
shoveling of sidewalks, which
Yep.
cost more than anything else.
It was like $68,000
Yeah,
for
right,
that
for hand
snowstorm
shoveling.
for hand shoveling.
Right. And in the last few years, snow has not been very much. And waste recycling are the regular trash pickup, the recycling pickup, the heavy pickup, the garden waste comes to about 18 to 20% of the budget. And so there, you add all those up, and that's most of it. It's about 85%. And then the rest of them are community events, tree planting. Tree planting goes up and down depending on how many trees die or have to be taken down during the year. One of the things I was curious about as I laid this out, in the last actual year of 2017, we spent $570,000. We budgeted over $700,000. We're budgeting over $700,000 for the current year and for next year. And my question was, why are we spending like 600,000, 570? Why are we budgeting 700,000? And most of the answer comes, we budget for some things that we never spend money on, like furniture. For years, we had a furniture budget, and we never spent money on it until this year. Finally, we're spending it. GIS, our Geographic Information System update, we budgeted for years and never spent money on it. This year, we finally did. So we have things in there that we are expecting to do, some of which never comes to pass. We also tend to budget a little conservatively, just in case kind of budgeting. So we're not taken by surprise. And in the last, ever since I've been on the council, our expenditures are almost always less than what we have projected to be. So.
And our income has generally.
And our income, except for the 2 really bad years when I first came on the council, has been coming in a little bit higher than we had projected. So we've been in good financial shape. One thing I would like to bring up specifically is the tree planting initiative, where we have a $100 fee for people to get a village help in planting a tree on their property. I would like to ask for a waiver of that fee for the coming year. In honor of our Arbor Day and Tree City application, I think we should be doing as much as possible to promote trees. So I don't think we need a motion on that. It's an administrative issue, isn't it?
I
To waive the fee?
I would have preferred, Arthur, that we had it on the agenda so
Yeah.
that it was talked about. So why don't we put it on the June agenda?
I would like to start waiving as soon as possible. Waive. Does it require, I don't think it requires a motion, does it? Is that administrative?
Well, it would require a motion to modify the existing policy.
Oh, okay. Okay, then we will put it on the agenda
For
for
June,
waiving.
in June.
Now-
I just
now,
have
Matt,
to say,
is the fee set forth in the application as well?
I think it's
So
in the
we
on
would
the
have to
form.
revise the form.
It's on the
too.
form,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on the, application
Yeah.
form itself, yeah.
I, for one, do not feel that that is detrimental to the program.
Well, we don't know. we've had very few applications, and we don't know whether the fee is a barrier, so.
Well, we could ask in a public, if it's on the agenda, we could make an inquiry if that is the issue, if people aren't participating. I mean, do you get a sense of it at all? Matt, I'm saying, all of a sudden I realize I have to identify people.
Well, I don't know. I was a little bit surprised at the candidate forum that a couple of people mentioned they weren't aware of the program. I thought that I thought that it was advertised, but it's always a challenge to kind of find the
Right.
sweet spot between giving people the same information over and over and making sure that they do see it.
The one thing that leads me to think it might be is that we were told that in section 5, when they introduced this, they had 100 applicants the first year. We had 1. And the one major difference, the only difference that I could see, is the fee. So I was expecting to have a lot of applicants, and nobody was doing it.
The one person at the candidates forum who said repeatedly that she had not had any information on this planting, the other people that surrounded her all said, you know, like it's been in the news, you know, that everybody around her tried to tell her that it's been widely advertised, but she was not to be deterred. And so, I mean, I think that's worthwhile that somebody who, at least on the surface, is active in the village, who says, I don't know that, raises the question of, you know, do we need to republicize it in some way? I feel, Arthur, that if if you're just giving free trees, that they have, no skin in the game.
That was the original intent of having the fee.
Right.
For exactly that reason.
In this neighborhood.
But if it's a deterrent, then I would say let's get rid of it for a year, waive it for a year, see what happens.
Let's add it to the agenda and talk about it in June.
Right.
Okay, let's go ahead and
Okay,
finish your
so,
report.
so the report finally is that, in the previous report I gave the rationale for cutting the property tax to close to zero. And so that will be the major items that, for the budget, is to adopt the budget as has been published in the last 3 months, including this month, and to reduce the property tax.
And so we need a motion to, first place, adopt the tax rates, as I understand. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, I don't have that motion paper, do you have it, Ron?
Yeah, we would need a motion to
Do I
adopt
have-
resolution number 3/18-2 to adopt the tax rates for the upcoming fiscal year. The tax rates would be as follows: a rate of 0.05 of a cent per $100 of assessed value on real property, 50 cents per $100 of assessed value for personal property, and $1.45 per $100 of assessed value for assessable utility property.
Okay, and so do we need a motion to
Yes.
adopt?
Yes.
So could I have a motion to adopt
I motion to adopt.
the tax rates as
tax
presented?
rate As presented. 3/18-2.
I
Thank
second.
you. A second by Susan. Question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay.
Tiffany.
We know Tiffany's for it.
Yes, Tiffany would vote. Yeah, we'll let her vote when she comes back.
Here
Also
she
do a
is.
little dance.
Is that and we have
And
to
the
adopt
ordinance
the
to the
budget.
yeah.
The
We have
budget
to
ordinance.
adopt the budget.
3/18-1.
As presented. Is there any questions on the budget from the audience? And so is there a motion to adopt the budget as presented? Does somebody so move?
I move to adopt the budget as presented.
And it's,
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So
You
would
voted
you
to reduce
vote,
the
you weren't
taxes.
here when we voted on the tax rates. Would you like your vote?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Would you want, so,
Yes.
And
I'd
I
like to
for
be counted as
consistent.
voting for a reduction of the tax rate.
okay,
Thank you.
well, for all of the tax rates as presented,
Yes,
which included the
a reduction
reduction.
from last.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're back to opportunity to hear comments. I think that we've had a lot of accomplishments during this past year that are important ones, the streets and the lights. But I think we've also had a tremendous outpouring of volunteers this year, which has really energized the village in new ways. And I think that that has been a great help to us. I think we do have an excellent village staff who are problem solvers for the residents and for the council, and have created an open atmosphere for the residents. So a special thanks to Matt and Lori.
Tina.
Tina,
Lori.
I'm sorry,
That's her.
Tina. Jesus, Matt and Tina, I have a hard time, but also to Doug and Wayne, who, I think Wayne has been on hold all day with the weather to help get everything set up along with our good friend Keith. I think that the changes we're seeing because of the staff, the openness, has been the increase in residents who are coming forward to volunteer, that they now feel that there is an atmosphere of welcoming other people's ideas. And I'd have to say that personally, I hope the incumbents are reelected because we have a great council, and I am very, very appreciative of that. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Richard. We're appreciative of you and everybody.
So, any other questions, comments? All in,
I move that the meeting be adjourned.
okay, is there a second? Meeting adjourned.